Imagine walking through a forest 5 million years from now, where the buzzing overhead isn't from a tiny mosquito, but from a dragonfly with wings spanning 6 feet across. Picture beetles the size of rhinoceros thundering through the underbrush, their chitinous armor gleaming like living tanks. This isn't science fiction. It's a scientifically plausible future that hinges on one of evolution's most powerful forces, the filling of empty ecological niches after mass extinction. Currently, insects represent over 80% of all known animal species, yet the largest among them, the magnificent Goliath beetles of Africa, barely reach the size of a small mouse, weighing just over 3 ounces. But what constraints keep these incredibly successful creatures so small? And could those constraints disappear in a world without humans? The answer lies deep in their evolutionary history and the fundamental physics of breathing. To understand why insects might grow enormous after our extinction, we must first grasp what keeps them small today. Unlike mammals with their efficient lungs and circulatory systems, insects breathe through a network of tubes called tracheae that branch throughout their bodies like microscopic subway systems. Air enters through small openings called spiracles and diffuses directly to tissues through increasingly narrow tubes called tracheoles. This system works brilliantly for small animals, but it faces a cruel mathematical reality. As insects grow larger, their tracheal systems must grow disproportionately massive to supply enough oxygen. Research on grasshoppers reveals this constraint in stark detail. While a tiny 10-milligram grasshopper dedicates only 8% of its body volume to its breathing apparatus, a 10-gram grasshopper would need 41% of its body for tracheae, and a theoretical 1-kilogram grasshopper would require a staggering 73% of its volume just for breathing tubes. At some point, there simply isn't enough space left for muscles, organs, or armor. This tracheal constraint acts like an evolutionary ceiling, preventing insects from growing beyond certain limits in our current atmosphere. But Earth's atmosphere hasn't always contained today's 21% oxygen. During the late Paleozoic period, roughly 300 million years ago, atmospheric oxygen soared to concentrations between 27% and 35%, levels that would be toxic to most modern animals. In this hyperoxic world, the fossil record reveals creatures that seem impossible by today's standards. Dragonflies with wingspans reaching 28 inches, millipedes stretching 8 feet long, and scorpions the size of modern house cats. These ancient giants thrived because the oxygen-rich atmosphere made their tracheal systems far more efficient, allowing each tube to deliver more life-sustaining gas without requiring proportionally larger breathing networks. The reign of giant arthropods ended not from atmospheric changes alone, but from the emergence of their most formidable enemies, birds. When early flying vertebrates evolved sophisticated flight capabilities during the early Cretaceous period, they brought unprecedented aerial predation pressure to bear on large insects. Size became a liability rather than an advantage, as smaller, more maneuverable insects could better escape the sharp eyes and quick reflexes of these feathered predators. Over millions of years, this selective pressure drove insect body sizes steadily downward, even as oxygen levels rose and fell. Now imagine humanity vanishing tomorrow through pandemic, climate catastrophe, or cosmic impact. The immediate aftermath would be chaotic, but evolution operates on deeper timescales. Historical precedent suggests that ecosystems require roughly 3 to 10 million years to fully recover from major extinction events. During this recovery period, something remarkable would likely occur: the ecological release of insects from their current constraints. The first change would be subtle but profound: the dramatic reduction in avian predation pressure. Today's insectivorous birds, which represent over 60% of all tropical bird species, consume insects with relentless efficiency. These aerial hunters have co-evolved with their prey for over 100 million years, developing exquisite flight control and sensory systems that make large size a death sentence for most insects. But in a post-human world, bird populations would likely crash due to habitat destruction, climate change, and the collapse of agricultural systems that many species depend upon. With their primary aerial predators gone or greatly reduced, larger insects would suddenly face far less evolutionary pressure to remain small. Simultaneously, vast ecological niches would open across the planet. Large mammalian herbivores, from deer to elephants, would face extinction through habitat loss, hunting, and ecosystem collapse. These creatures currently occupy crucial ecological roles, processing plant matter, dispersing seeds, maintaining grasslands, and serving as prey for large carnivores. In evolutionary terms, these represent enormous niche spaces, combinations of food sources, habitats, and ecological functions that could support substantial biomass. The theory of adaptive radiation predicts that when these niches become vacant, evolution rapidly fills them through the diversification of surviving lineages. Insects possess several advantages that make them prime candidates for this ecological expansion. They already exhibit incredible morphological diversity, occupy virtually every terrestrial habitat, and demonstrate remarkable physiological flexibility. Their segmented body plan allows for dramatic size increases while maintaining structural integrity. And their complete metamorphosis enables radical changes between life stages that could support gigantism. Picture the evolutionary pathways that might emerge over the first million years after human extinction. Ground-dwelling beetles, freed from bird predation and facing abundant rotting vegetation from forest diebacks, might evolve larger body sizes to process this bonanza of decomposing matter. Their strong mandibles and efficient digestive systems already make them excellent candidates for bulk plant processing. Species like the Goliath beetles, which can already carry 850 times their body weight, possess the basic biomechanical architecture for dramatic size increases. Meanwhile, social insects like ants and termites might undergo parallel gigantism. Their colonial lifestyle provides advantages that solitary giants cannot match: cooperative hunting, construction projects beyond individual capability, and efficient resource allocation. Imagine termite colonies with workers the size of rabbits, capable of processing entire fallen trees in days rather than years, or army ant species with soldiers rivaling small mammals in size, sweeping across continents in unstoppable waves. Aerial insects might face different evolutionary pressures, but equally dramatic possibilities. With large birds extinct or rare, the skies would become a vast, underutilized hunting ground. Dragonflies, already possessing the most sophisticated flight systems in the animal kingdom, might evolve toward their Paleozoic ancestors' proportions. Their 4 independently controlled wings and incredible visual systems make them natural candidates for large-scale aerial predation. Imagine dragonflies with 6-foot wingspans patrolling rivers and lakes, their compound eyes tracking prey with mechanical precision. The question of oxygen levels adds another fascinating dimension to this speculative future. Human industrial activity currently suppresses atmospheric oxygen through fossil fuel combustion and deforestation. In a post-human world, vast reforestation might occur as agricultural lands return to wilderness, potentially raising oxygen levels over geological time. While unlikely to reach Paleozoic extremes, even modest increases in atmospheric oxygen could ease the tracheal constraints that currently limit insect size, providing additional evolutionary impetus toward gigantism. However, evolution never proceeds without constraints, and giant insects would face new challenges unknown to their smaller ancestors. The biomechanics of arthropod exoskeletons impose fundamental limits on size. As insects grow larger, their external skeletons must become proportionally thicker and heavier to support increased body mass. At some point, the energy costs of building and maintaining such massive armor might outweigh the benefits of large size. Additionally, the molting process becomes increasingly dangerous as insects grow larger, creating windows of vulnerability that predators could exploit. The thermal physics of large insects presents another significant hurdle. Small insects can regulate their temperature through behavior alone, but large-bodied arthropods would need sophisticated thermoregulation systems. This might drive the evolution of behavioral adaptations, like communal temperature regulation, or physiological innovations such as modified breathing systems that also serve for heat exchange. Geographic patterns would likely influence which insect lineages achieve the greatest size increases. Islands and isolated continents, classic laboratories for evolutionary gigantism, might witness the most dramatic transformations. The phenomenon of island gigantism, well documented in mammals and birds, occurs when reduced predation pressure and abundant ecological niches favor larger body sizes. In a post-human world, many land masses might effectively become islands, as habitat fragmentation creates isolated populations ripe for rapid evolutionary change. Tropical regions might emerge as the primary theaters for insect gigantism. These areas currently harbor the greatest insect diversity and would likely experience the most dramatic ecological upheaval following human extinction. The warm temperatures reduce the energetic costs of maintaining large body sizes, while year-round growing seasons provide consistent food sources that could support giant herbivorous and detritivorous insects. Competition between emerging giant insect lineages would create its own evolutionary pressures, driving further diversification and specialization. Some lineages might evolve toward herbivory, developing massive mandibles and extended digestive systems for processing tough plant material. Others might become apex predators, evolving enhanced sensory systems, powerful grasping limbs, and sophisticated hunting strategies. Still others might specialize in decomposition, growing to enormous sizes to process the massive amounts of dead organic matter in post-extinction ecosystems. The timescale for these transformations, while rapid in evolutionary terms, would span millions of years. Initial size increases might occur relatively quickly. Research with fruit flies shows measurable size changes within just 5 generations under altered atmospheric conditions. However, the evolution of truly giant forms, complete with all necessary physiological and behavioral adaptations, would require extensive periods of natural selection and genetic change. After 5 to 10 million years, the post-human Earth might host ecosystems dominated by insects of unprecedented size and diversity. Imagine vast grasslands maintained by herds of giant scarab beetles, their horns and armor providing defense against pack-hunting predatory insects. Picture forest canopies alive with enormous social insects, building structures that rival modern cities in complexity. Envision freshwater ecosystems where giant aquatic insect larvae serve as the primary large predators, while massive adult forms emerge to mate in aerial displays visible from miles away. Yet even in this speculative future, insects would likely face ultimate size limits imposed by physics and biochemistry. The square cube law dictates that as animals grow larger, their volume increases faster than their surface area, creating challenges for heat dissipation, oxygen delivery, and structural support. These constraints suggest that even under ideal conditions, terrestrial arthropods might reach maximum sizes comparable to medium-sized mammals, rather than truly gigantic proportions. The story of insect gigantism after human extinction represents more than mere speculation. It illuminates fundamental principles of evolution, ecology, and the interconnectedness of life. It reminds us that the current dominance of large mammals represents just one snapshot in the vast timeline of evolutionary experimentation. Throughout Earth's history, different groups have risen to fill the role of dominant large animals. First, marine arthropods, then early tetrapods, later dinosaurs, and finally mammals. Each transition occurred when environmental changes and extinction events opened new evolutionary opportunities, allowing previously constrained lineages to explore novel ecological strategies. The insects surrounding us today carry within their genes the same fundamental toolkit that produced the giants of the Paleozoic: sophisticated sensory systems, efficient metabolisms, modular body plans, and remarkable behavioral flexibility. What keeps them small are the specific ecological and atmospheric conditions of our current world. Change those conditions dramatically enough, as human extinction would certainly do, and evolution's creative power could once again produce arthropod giants to fill the vacant throne rooms of terrestrial ecosystems. This thought experiment also highlights the extraordinary evolutionary success of insects, having survived multiple mass extinctions, colonized virtually every terrestrial habitat, and diversified into over 1 million known species. They possess an evolutionary resilience that few other animal groups can match. While mammals reached their current dominance only after the extinction of dinosaurs 66 million years ago, insects have maintained their ecological prominence for over 400 million years. In the grand evolutionary game, they are the ultimate survivors. As we contemplate this speculative future, we might ask ourselves what it reveals about the present. The tiny insects that flutter past our windows or crawl beneath our feet represent one of evolution's greatest success stories, constrained to small size not by lack of evolutionary potential, but by the specific circumstances of our current world. In their six-legged forms lie the blueprints for giants, waiting patiently for the next great ecological revolution to unleash their hidden potential upon the world.